Hey peeps, it's Tripl-L, and today let's talk about Sword Art Online. I want to talk about my general perspective and my feelings on this show. When it comes to anime viewers, Sword Art Online is very infamous. You will see a lot of videos bringing down Sword Art, a lot of videos explaining why it sucks, why it does what it does so badly, what aspects of it like really just fail, and occasionally you'll see the videos of people defending it. So guys, today let's just jump on that bandwagon. Let's just talk about Sword Art Online. I'm going to try to make this really simple, because there's not much that has to be said about this. Here's the fundamental fact. I don't think it's that bad. I have generally good feelings and positive feelings for Sword Art, and here's why. Once upon a time, I lived in a house with 4 other roommates. These guys were casual. They would barely watch anything of anime. They did not watch anime at all, actually. They were the kind of guys that grew up maybe on Dragon Ball Z, and that was about as far as their anime knowledge went. I think actually maybe only one other person casually watched anime. Anyway, this person brought up Sword Art Online to us, and eventually we just all came together as a household. We sat down and we watched Sword Art Online, and it was a really fun time. There was always pizza, snacks, beer. We had a fun time watching Sword Art Online. We had a fun time laughing. We had a fun time just commenting on how strong the main character was. We had a fun time just taking in the action sequence. It was a badass show. Like, it did what it set out to do well. And that's ultimately what I think is Sword Art Online's best quality, right? It was novel enough and it was simple enough for anyone to just kind of want to get into it when they heard about the premise that people were dying in a video game. They were stuck in there. And it was exciting enough that it kept those people there. And it was simple enough, again, to understand what was going on. It was simple enough to understand the goal to get out of the video game. This is ultimately what I think Sword Art did well, but that simplicity, that simple nature is also what I think kills it in the eyes of people who watch anime more often. Because when you look at it with a critical eye, you can spot a lot more, I guess, flaws with it. You can spot that there's just some things that don't jive very well, and then eventually you have to come to the conclusion that this isn't so much about people stuck in a video game. No, this is just about the one guy who happens to be really good at it and has gotten himself to a point where he can kind of steamroll everything that isn't the final boss. Of course, with some added drama in between for good measure. But when it comes to watching this with friends and just wanting to have a good time, Sword Art Online did well. I respect it for that, and that's ultimately why my positive feelings for the show exist. It's because it was this fun time I had with my roommates, just sitting down and watching anime and just laughing and giggling and whatever else. Funnily enough, however, we stopped watching once we got to Alfheim, because that's when the show made it really clear. It's not about people being stuck in a video game. It's about Kirito. He's the main character, and we're gonna see his exploits. And his exploits were just being really good at a video game, and being good at a video game to save someone else, or being very good at a video game to do undercover missions to find out who's killing people in a video game. And that's okay, keep it simple, but at that point the people who were drawn in by the premise of a death game just kind of dropped off. When it came to me watching it on my own, I was entertained sometimes, but ultimately I developed viewing habits to get me through that particular show. I appreciate it, but it's not a show I'm going to say that I would highly recommend. It's not a show that I would recommend to other anime viewers. If I had a bunch of people who wanted to just start on anime, I'd probably give them Sword Art, because it's simple enough to ingest and it's not crazy in the way that other anime are. What made me want to talk about Sword Art Online today, though, was that I saw the trailer for Ordinal Scale, the new movie that's coming out. And, it's a very pretty looking trailer. Very pretty, but it just reminds me of what I think was my biggest problem with Sword Art, and it's just like this disconnect between the scale of what's going on and the reality of what's going on. Because look, even in the trailer, it's pretty bombastic. You'll see lines like, "Even the strongest swordsman is this weak in AR." Kirito isn't the strongest swordsman. No, he just plays the strongest swordsman in a video game. And yeah, you could say, well, he has some kind of physical prowess, but he's the strongest swordsman in a video game. And then there's someone else saying that they won't acknowledge someone who won't, I guess, confront their past self. Look, man, people are having identity crisis because of a video game. And that's unfortunate, and they're taking it all very seriously. But that's what Sword Art was about, right? It's about putting these characters in a situation where they took a video game very seriously. It didn't always work out that well. It didn't work. I sometimes wonder how different would Sword Art have been if it was, instead of being transported into a video game, people were just sent to a fantasy world. Like the exact same as Aincrad, and they just had to survive there. Because then if they die, they still die. In terms of games that have done this though, Log Horizon, I think, when you compare and contrast it to Sword Art, does a lot better. Yeah, it doesn't look as pretty as a Sword Art, but the topics that it ended up exploring were like ideas like what happens when you apply video game logic to a pre-existing fantasy world. What happens when you give player characters the freedom and consciousness of a actual human? How does that change what the people of that world perceive? It was a very interesting kind of topic to explore in the early parts of Log Horizon. But what does Sword Art explore? It tries to bring its own brand of drama with every arc, but ultimately it revolves around Kirito. He's the one that goes in to save people, and he's the one that leads... Oh, he's the one that leads people out of Sword Art. Like, man, he was just a really good gamer. And apparently a really good hacker. Anyway, you know, I'm getting kind of petty for that part, but I think I'm just going to leave it there. Sword Art Online, my ultimate thoughts on it. I appreciate it for being simple and novel enough that it gave me and my roommates a lot of fun times. But, you know, it has its flaws. I'm willing to overlook the flaws for just a fun time, but I'm not going to go out of my way to say this is the best thing ever. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you thought of Sword Art and your general feelings about it. We're probably going to be getting Sword Art for a very long time. I mean, they just got a movie. It's coming out like in February or something. It's going to be around for a long time. So I think it might be best for us to make our peace with it. I've made my peace with it. I will always just remember the days that I spent with my roommates watching it. Fun times. Anyway, guys, till next time, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. So guys, today